Well, good morning again. Keith Hayes with Mirador Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes in East Sussex, the United Kingdom. And outside is the last of the nice weather for some time, although it is a bit overcast at the moment. The forecast is for a long sunny day and a temperature of 20 degrees. And it is actually 20 degrees right at this very moment. And it says mostly cloudy, but the forecast is not so mostly cloudy. So let's hope that the forecast is correct. Because it could be very pleasant out there. It was quite cool this morning coming in. It was a drizzling rain and a fairly gusty wind to the extent that I had to tuck my hat into the bag carrying the television station in case it blew off and flew down the road. I had to go back for it. And most of you know I come in on a mobility scooter, can't walk anymore. Zoom, zoom, zoom. And as I tear along like Toad of Toad Hall, then there are certain things which I have to be careful about. But from next week is from Monday onwards, we shall be changing the format slightly, in as much as the 2Bs will come on at 8 o'clock and have a chat about the law, about them, about things that are happening, and so on. And that will be followed by the news that will come up around about 9:15. At the moment, it is 9:28, and the day is the 13th of October, 2023. So let's see what's happening on October the 13th, 2023. Right, okay. Now, the newspaper headlines are with the I, Sunak sends in the military as the UK and the US urge Israeli restraint. The conflict in Israel and Gaza continues to dominate Friday's front pages. The I reports that the US and Britain have asked Israel to take every precaution against harming civilians in Gaza when targeting Hamas, as the Royal Navy and RAF are deployed to the region. The Daily Mail, Prime Minister tells police to get a grip on anti-Israel hate as 2 Jewish schools are forced to shut, and fear grows over pro-Palestinian protests this weekend. And Rishi reads the Riot Act, it says, to making sure that police protect the Jewish community if they are vulnerable. On the front page of the Mail as well is Bernie Ecclestone is being forced to pay £653 million to the taxman. Could be a victory for Ecclestone. Basically, the thesis is he pays that huge amount, he'll stay out of jail. Well, Rishi Sunak told police chiefs to get a grip on anti-Israel hate, as 2 Jewish schools in London said they were closing to protect their pupils. The paper says the Prime Minister and Home Secretary Suella Braverman summoned commanders to Downing Street to tackle them over their softly approach towards provocative pro-Palestinian marches after the Hamas attacks on Israel. The Mirror, horror in the Middle East. The Mirror has woken up at last and has decided to cover this. It ignored it on Monday, as if it wasn't of any great interest. But now Sunak sending ships and planes to block transfer of weapons to terrorists, humanitarian crisis in Gaza as Israel steps up shelling before invasion, British families paying as they plead for lives of hostages held by Hamas, and 2 Jewish schools in London closed over fears for the safety of children. The big bold headline, the Royal Navy is on the way. The Daily Mirror says a British military task force is being sent to the eastern Mediterranean to help stop all-out war in the Middle East. Downing Street said the military units would help tackle the humanitarian crisis and track threats such as the transfer of weapons to terrorist groups. The Guardian, the US promises arms to Israel as UN sounds a Gaza warning. There's a picture of Joe Biden and I don't know whether it's Netanyahu or not. It doesn't have a caption on it. How odd. But the Guardian says the US pledged to send more weapons to Israel on Thursday in advance of an expected ground assault in Gaza against Hamas, amid UN warnings that food and water supplies were running dangerously low in the blockaded enclave. The paper quotes Blinken pledging US support for Israel today, tomorrow, every day. I think that must have been Biden, Blinken. Blinken, and nod. Although perhaps I'm showing my ignorance. Perhaps one of the major players is named Blinken. The Financial Times, Washington urges restraint on Israel as threat of regional conflict mounts. Yes, the FT reports that the US urged restraint on Israel as Washington and Saudi Arabia stepped up efforts on Thursday to prevent the war with Hamas from spiraling into a regional conflict. The paper says Blinken, notice Blinken, yes, called on Israel to take steps to avoid civilian casualties. What ignorance I display with some of these names. The Metro, it stays domestic in many ways. F1 Bernie, I pulled a fast one. The billionaire ex-Formula One boss Bernie Ecclestone swerved jail by pleading guilty to a £400 million fraud and handing over £652 million in tax. The 92-year-old was due to face trial next month, but in a surprise hearing at Southwark Crown Court, he pleaded guilty to a single charge of fraud by false representation, the paper adds. There we are. Okay, The Sun, which also stepped back from this at the beginning of the week, but has now come roaring in. Fury at terror victims snub, shining light. In the name of little Emily 8 and all the innocents slaughtered by Hamas, why the hell can't spineless FA light up Wembley in their memory? Its headline is Darkest Hour. The Sun says that the FA has been branded a national disgrace for refusing to light up Wembley's arch to honour victims of the Israeli terror attacks. The paper says politicians and fans want the FA to light the arch in blue and white at Friday's friendly with Austria. The Daily Express, horrific images of murdered babies show depravity in the worst way. The Daily Express reports that Israel has released horrifying images to provoke that evil Hamas terrorists murdered babies during their attacks. Blinken confirmed he had seen some of the shocking pictures, the paper adds. The Daily Telegraph. This is the most difficult image we've ever posted. As we are writing this, we are shaking. We went back and forth about posting this, but we need each and every one of you to know this happened. The headline in the Daily Telegraph is a quote from Israeli government social media, which posted an image of the corpse of a baby. And the paper said Israel wanted the world to see the full horror of what happened in that country last weekend. The paper also says Britain will send warships and aircraft to help Israel in a major show of support after the Hamas terror attacks. The Times, Israel shows mutilated baby. Same story, with a picture of some children with blood-stained children, and obviously in distress. The Times reports that Israel published photographs on Thursday that it said showed mutilated bodies, including a baby allegedly murdered by Hamas. The paper displays a photograph of Palestinian children wounded in airstrikes sitting in Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital. Well, let's thank the star. Let's thank our lucky stars that we got the star to actually lighten the mood. Pesky pests on the move, it says. Psycho scumbag bedbugs are hiding in our drawers. According to the Daily Star, sneaky bedbugs are nesting in our drawers, cabinets, and cupboards before launching nighttime raids to feast on unsuspecting snorers. Oh, dear me. Shall we take a little deeper look at the news? I think we shall. There's so much happening. The Times and the Daily Telegraph lead on Israel's decision to publish photographs of mutilated bodies, including babies allegedly killed by Hamas at the weekend. The Telegraph says it is reproducing one of the pictures, quoting U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who said it was an image that spoke a million words. The paper says it is a vital portrait of an horrendous attack, but the Times says it is not publishing any of the photographs because they are too graphic. The two papers agree in their criticism of the BBC after the corporation said it would not call Hamas terrorists because it needed to remain impartial. In an editorial, the Telegraph says impartiality is a value often absent from the rest of the BBC's coverage. The Times says that the Hamas terrorists have defined themselves by their own acts. The article also quotes a group of barristers arguing that the BBC is in effect cloaking the evils committed by Hamas in euphemism. The BBC says it takes its use of language very seriously, allowing audiences to make their own judgment.
Hello. Oh, yeah.
Good morning. Do you want to come in?
Whose little doggy is that?
Eh?
Whose little doggy is that?
Who's what?
Little doggy.
Oh, this is Richard's story. Yeah, you can come in. He's perfectly tame.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just finish this and we've got our long lost friend. Come on in. Stuart is here this morning. An editorial in the Daily Mail questions the FA's explanation that it wants to avoid a backlash. The paper says it is far more likely that they do not want to offend the oil-rich Middle East states that now put so much into football. The FA said it would remember the innocent victims with the players wearing Iraq armbands and a period of silence before kickoff. The UK government's decision to send a military task force to the Eastern Mediterranean makes the lead in the Daily Mirror. In addition, the paper says Britain's support for Israel should be accompanied by a greater domestic effort to secure humanitarian aid for Gaza. Here we are coming in.
Right, well,
Here it is.
so we all remember the 1973.
Sit down so people can see you. Yeah.
1973 thing where the Arab states under King Faisal, because the Saudi Arabians have got the absolute of OPEC. I think Saudi Arabia has got 25% of the whole oil.
Yes,
right?
I mean it's by far the world's biggest.
By far.
Yeah.
And of course, when they brought this boycott against Israel,
yeah,
then there was a crisis,
right?
Because the Western countries didn't have enough oil to what's it, and it was a tremendous crisis, wasn't it, at that time?
Yes.
In fact, it led to what was known as a war.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that was the third war. The first, there'd been the 7-day war before that, hadn't there?
Yes.
And there'd been the original one, where the Suez one.
Yeah. It's funny how things change, isn't it? Because apparently the Saudis are working with the United States to try and make sure that this doesn't erupt into a full-scale war in the Middle East.
Well, the United States is in a very difficult position here, because they have to support Israel, because there are lots of Jews in America, right? And they happen to be in the right places, and they have got a tremendous voting power in America, right?
Yes.
So they will support Israel come, hell death and high water, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
And that's where it goes. And of course, various like Bill Clinton tried to get a post situation and almost pulled it off, and but it didn't quite work. No.
Now, Stuart, you are a man that has been around the world. You've covered a number of wars. You've been in dangerous places. Is one of the questions that is being debated is the Israelis have got 3 arms of intelligence, all of which are considered to be the best in the world.
Mossad.
They've got Mossad, they've got Hamas, and they've got the other one whose name escapes me at the moment. But how on earth did the Hamas manage to get so many people? I mean, it was a big operation. How did they actually get it and launch it without the Israeli intelligence services finding out?
Well, that's a very, very good question. I don't know. I mean, Hamas is a rather peculiar thing, because it's a sort of it's a body inside a body, if you see what I mean, in Gaza Strip, right?
Yeah.
There are lots of Palestinians. Okay.
Yeah.
So within the Palestinians, there's Hamas, which is a terrorist group. So it's difficult to know, because once Arafat was off the scene, we didn't quite know who was leading the Palestinians. That was because once Arafat, he could actually control things.
Yes. He's a bit like Tito, wasn't he? Held together in an impossible situation.
What was his name? Yasser Arafat. And I think the editor of the Financial Times, I think, he called Rat-a-tat. He called him Rat-a-tat. Oh, dear.
Now, I mean, it's I value, and I think our viewers value your opinion, because you have been around the world and you have dealt with some of these people and so on. What is your view of Netanyahu, a very controversial figure as Prime Minister of Israel?
Well, what is my view of him is not very good, because he's a bit of a gangster, I think, and he's very corrupt man, apparently, and so forth and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, you see, the Israeli people have to go radical, because they've always got in the back of their mind the Holocaust. Always. That is the whole thing.
Right.
That's why America must support them. And attitude, you know, I can't remember what his name is.
Netanyahu.
Netanyahu, yeah. But well, there's been all kinds of leaders, haven't there? There's been the one who did the Lebanon, who was a general. What was his name? I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't. The trouble is, so many world leaders pass through it. It is difficult. Yeah. Is somebody said he's a bit like Berlusconi?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think that's putting it a bit much, going a bit far. I mean, you know. Well, Berlusconi's rather different. You're an Italian, isn't he? You know, full of song, full of goodwill.
And the other story that is grabbing the headlines today is that Bernie Ecclestone has been done for £645 million worth of tax.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you like to be done for £645 million worth of tax?
I most certainly can't, but I like Bernie Ecclestone because where his children went to the same school as my children.
Right.
And of course, Francis Mills it was called, and it was in London. And of course, he gave the school the great money to have certain all kinds of computer stuff and all the rest of it. So it's a bit like Richard Branson, because my kids went to the same school as him. And Branson came up with a sort of all kinds of packages of licenses.
Yeah.
Well, although these private schools, of course, you know, they always benefit from benefactors, you know, so the kids would get a good place, you know.
Yes, indeed. So what else is happening on your? First of all, you know, all this takes us away from price rises in fuel and so on and so forth. What's happening on the energy front?
Not very much. I think not a lot is happening because well, you know what the situation is that the gas price has gone down below the energy cap, and that meant that basically the six cartel, British Gas, EDF, E.ON, Empower, and Scottish Power, I think it was, they dominated the energy. 70% of energy users get their money from the cartel. And then finally, when the thing went down, the big six cartel didn't know quite what to do, apart from put up their tariffs. And I'll give you an example. In 2022, January the 1st to June 30th, British Gas made a gross profit of £1.3 billion, right?
Yeah.
And what did they do with those £3 billion? They didn't give it to the needy and the poor. They gave the CEO £2 million salary.
Yeah.
Secondly, they gave a lot of money to their mother company, Centrica, and they doubled the number of shareholdings that all shareholders already had. So that is profiteering, rank profiteering. In my mind, possible bordering on corruption.
Can you see any change in their approach?
Well, it depends. It all depends on the gas price, because that's what we're depending on. Well, you know. Well, I suppose the other thing is what we ought to think about is oil, if you're talking about energy. Now, I don't know, there's been a lot of people protesting, right? There was protesting at the famous, what's the music? The Sergeant. There's been protesting about the energy, about oil.
Yes.
Right? And then recently on the Sussex Express, they were saying that the Conservative Party here won't give up investing in oil companies, because BP has a very good dividend, you see, so forth and so forth. But as I've been talking all along with my green barrel, the real thing is that we are dependent on oil because there has not been enough investment in renewable energy companies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you know why that is?
No, why?
Well, I will tell you. At the end of the abortive Copenhagen summit, right, there was a poll saying who favours climate change, and only 25% of those polled said, well, we don't believe it, it doesn't, so forth. So, and also at that time, we set up, having started an oil barrel, which I made a lot of money out of actually, and greenbarrel.com which I've got now, which is about investment in small green renewable energy companies. Now the thing was that at that stage, a company, would come along with a new idea, like say marine current turbines, okay, but they had to go to the stock exchange to get the money to get the product approved, and also to get around the regulatory figures. And very, very quickly, the product didn't come quite good enough, and that meant that of the 50 companies we were writing about, we've now got about 30. So there's not enough the investment,
right.
And that is the whole point. They're all saying now, yes, we are going to invest in solar and wind and this, that, and the other. But it's a bit late in the day, isn't it, really, when you think about it?
Right.
So when I saw there was a boat standing here down the bottom of the cliff, and I said, look, I'm afraid you people, excuse the pun, but you're blowing in the wind because there's not been this investment, and people just won't listen to what I'm saying. It's true.
Yeah.
If you can get more investment in renewable energy, but see, as I said, if you're investing in renewable energy, you're investing in risky investments.
Yeah. And of course, there's only a finite amount of money, really, isn't there? So if it's in one thing, it's not going to be in another. Yeah. What else is happening on the domestic scene, Stuart? Because you've got your ears to the ground.
Well, we've done recently about the human nature thing, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
Now, what we were told when we read the paper, that the planning people, which is the SPDA, South Downs Park Authority,
Trust or something. Yes, right.
Planning Authority. That's right. It. Yeah. And they came to certain problems in the nature's attempt to have this green utopia down the bottom of the town. So they said at the end of it that there are certain aspects of what you're trying to do that we cannot agree to. Now, last night I ran Dale Hager, who was a very on a social media campaign against it, and he said, I don't know, didn't you go to the meetings today? I said, no, I didn't. Why? He said, well, the SPDNE and the human nature people, little Charlie, Uncle Charlie as well, they came out of the thing and saying that the SPNDA has said they're going to defer any judgment for 3 months. So there we go.
Right, so that's on the shelf again.
Yes, now it gives me a little thing about that. A few of the brown envelopes have been passed. Because, as you know, I've always thought about that human nature has been a very dodgy dodgy outfit. And once when I went to the company's house, they said they had enough money to build this 700 houses as a town utopia down the bottom of the Phoenix, yeah. And it turns out that in 21 they were £8 million down.
Oh, really?
So
yeah, so they're struggling financially to realise what they
Well, the other thing they've agreed to now is that they will agree to 30% for guys. What is it? It's not. What is? I can't remember. I'm trying to say. Housing. You get a discount, don't you? 30% discount for houses.
Right.
35,000. So it's now 30%, right? Ah. No, 30%. 30% for what is the word? It's the not. No, it's 30,000. 30,000. No, 30, not advised upon housing. It's something else.
Affordable.
Affordable housing.
Yeah,
that's the word. It's affordable housing. Affordable housing is going to get a 30% discount. That's 330,000 quid. Okay. Well, the average income in this town is 24,000.
Really?
Yeah. Not 30.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I see that most people may or may not know that Stuart is a patron of the arts. I see that you're the lady you sponsor, Lisa Peterson, is it?
Nita, yeah.
Yes, has got an exhibition on at the moment.
Yes, it's very good. Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
she's done look since she's had that money. But we won't. I don't want to embarrass her, but she's done so well with that gallery. So well. Lots of local artists, those and so forth and so on.
Right.
Yeah.
And how about the controversial bit, the Charleston people down the road? Any word on them?
Well, not so far. I mean, when I was talking to John May about human nature, he went, "Yeah, yes." When I gave him the paper and so on and so forth, I said, "All right, John. Now that we've done human nature, should we ever go at Charleston?" But he didn't like it because he's quite. I think he's a bit ambivalent about Charleston.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not against Charleston as such. Actually, one of the things that you're right is you support a very vital part of this town. The artists are very independent and are spirited, and they're not going to let a big guy come in and knock them over. So that part doesn't bother me too much. What does bother me is that I bumped into Ruth O'Keefe, who is no longer a councillor, but she's got her ear very close to the ground, of course, and she confirmed what you and I have been saying is that they are rent free for 5 years. And that they've actually got a very healthy bank account. Thank you very much. Now, that sticks in our craw, does it not?
Sorry?
That sticks in our craw.
Yeah. And also, I mean, God bless her, that terrible council all put £34,000 of our money into it.
Indeed.
Yeah, indeed. That's not nice, is it?
No, it's not.
But don't get me on the Green Party. Don't get me on the Green.
Well, now I know that you have a deep interest in the training of young people, and like a lot of things, it's in its very formative stage. But as you know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, we introduced Dr. Mark Maybe, a professor that I worked with years ago, who has just retired, and he has now become involved with a university that doesn't have lecture halls. It is very much on the practical side of things. It's got the blessing of the Department of Education. It's growing in Stoke. And he says the mother university will be in Stoke, but we hope that we can put these satellites out across the country in various centres. And because he's now involved with Mirador, he says he would love to think that Lewis would be the first one.
Oh, that'd be great.
So I've let Janet Barr, the local councillor, who is very, very keen on education, and who in fact has her own PhD, know, and I've asked her, invited her to talk to Mark and to come in here and talk to him on his programme to see whether in fact we can take that forward. That'd be rather good, wouldn't it? Because you've been very keen on that, and I don't think you've got a response yet from the University of Sussex.
No, funny you should mention that, because I was just about to do that, have another go, but it doesn't seem to be very propitious, does it? Because I mean, the point was that we were trying to play on my fact that I was an alumnus, and I had actually spent a lot of money for the Alumnus Society, and maybe they just felt, oh, he's a bloody just trying to get some money, money out of us or something like that. But well, what we wanted to do was to get go to the alumni people and say, we would like to actually do a training or now what work experience, which is a very, very good idea.
Yes, it is, and it's very important nowadays. People without work experience don't stand a chance. Their application goes in and it's immediately dumped. It's the people who.
But that's what I used to do with my my websites. That, like when I was doing Orwell, I said, look, if you write about this company or something, I'll put it on this website, and it will be very good for your CV. And when I was doing the Green Banner one about the companies there and so forth and so on, I said, if you write about that one, maybe so forth and so on, then you would get a very good CV and that kind of thing.
Oh, now other issues, because I know is you really are our ear to the ground locally, and you certainly get around, and you talk to a lot of.
What do you mean I get around the pubs?
As a good journalist, that's as good a place as any to find information, is it not?
talking about being journalists, do you see over there, right, the law courts?
Yes, it is.
Back in the day, all the court reporters used to be here in the front, when there was a really, really juicy trial going on. They were so pissed they couldn't remember what was going on. They couldn't remember.
Oh, that sounds like journalism. It does. Well, it's good to see you. Just let's catch up with the family, because they moved to Hastings.
Yeah. Oh, but there's Janie, my stepdaughter, has got COVID again.
Oh dear.
She's had it about 4 times, especially.
Really? Yeah. I did see a little item on the news last that in Sussex, East Sussex, we've now got about 300 cases.
Have we? Oh.
Yeah, and that's quite steep. Really, it does look as if there's at least a backlash, if not a full-fledged pandemic starting again. Yeah.
But have you had jabs?
I'm getting them on the 19th. That's the 19th.
Whereabouts?
Down at Riverside.
Are they giving you one, are they?
Yeah.
Because you're old.
Yes.
Well, we tried. They sent me a message saying, when was your date of birth? This was in September. Yeah? I said my date of birth was the 25/10/1944. 25th of October 1924. And she said, So, oh, September 19th. No, there's no vacancies on September 19th. So I don't know what the hell was going on.
Well,
I've had the flu jab, which Leslie can't have, is
Yeah.
fact. But
I'm getting a flu jab at the same time. Yeah. But what happened with me was I got a thing on my phone saying, follow this link and then select your date. And I followed the link for it only to come up and say, there are no dates available. So I went down to the local surgery and said, oi, this is ridiculous. And they immediately found me a date. So perhaps you should go and see your doctor.
I should go and see the doctor.
I think it's worthwhile being cautious, don't you?
Yeah. Well, we were very funny. We've had all this trouble with our house, and we had to go. We had to go to Brighton, but by the way, they said there is a Jew jab in Goldstone Villas, which is almost opposite the Hove station. So I thought we'd like to have that, but of course, bloody trains weren't working.
Yes. Well, it's good to see you, Stuart. Now, the other thing is, whether some people may not be aware, Stuart is a renowned author. I actually read his book before I met him. The novel, the Friends of Rathlin Island. Do get it if you see it, because it's a good read. But at the moment, he's writing his autobiography, which takes him through the Vietnam War and Southeast Asia, time in Ireland during the Troubles, and all over the place. Now, how's it coming?
Yeah, it's coming along. But all other things are, it's the John Lennon thing, isn't it? Life is what happens when you're making plans to do other things. That's the kind of thing. I wanted to write a page today, and now I come in here instead.
You perform a very useful function for Mirador. It's very good that you're here. But I suppose really, would you agree that at our age it's better to be too busy than not busy at all?
Well, I think so. I mean, my take on this is that I in fact enjoy being old. As a matter of fact, you've got to two tests.
Yeah.
Your health's got to hold up, and you've got to be moderately financially secure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you've got
those things. So people say to me, "When you're going to retire?" And I say, "Well, I don't retire. I'm a writer. Like a writer, I go on.
Yeah.
I don't stop. I don't retire from. People say to me, "When you're going to retire?" I said, "Retire from what?" If you're a musician or a painter or a writer, this is what you do. This is what you are.
Absolutely.
And therefore, and then people say to me, "Well, what are you going to do? You're quite well off. Are you just going to start going or touring around the world like a lot of old people do who can afford to, or are you actually going to do things and so forth and so forth?" And I said, "I think I should do both."
Yeah.
I kind of, I went off and see some of my Guernsey friends, Colin Smith, who was a war correspondent as well. So I went to see him, but also I talked to him about one of his sons is trying to do a degree in renewable energy. So I was able to actually talk to him a lot about that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean it's good actually. I was laughing because I speak to so many people, but I was going over some of the things that had happened in my life and the other person that was going over the things that happened in their lives, and it's sort of satisfying when you've kicked around the world. But you're absolutely right. I enjoy old age as well. The only downside is that I do ache a bit and I can't walk terribly well. If I could regain those, then I would be very happy at the age that I am.
Well, actually, fortunately, I've got my balance. I thought I was losing it, but I haven't. I'm okay
Oh,
now.
that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. Yeah. Probably a bit too much brandy, do you think?
I don't know.
Right now, we've got Melissa Conti coming up in about 15 minutes'
I
time.
think I better be going.
So what we'll do is we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and join Melissa. And Stuart is going to take off into the. It's supposed to be a very, very sunny day at 20 degrees.
Yes.
Stuart, it's gone down to 19 degrees. Oh, and it's changed its forecast to heavy rain, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
How sad. But it did look as if it was going to be a very nice day for a while. All right, we'll say toodle pip, and we'll be back shortly.